South Dakotans have relied on the horse for hundreds of years to work the land, compete for the ultimate prize, and enjoy the view of the rolling hills and prairie lands from on top of the South Dakota Horse. We celebrate equine power, grace, and beauty, and the South Dakotans who take the reins. This is the South Dakota Horse Podcast.
Hello everyone, my name is Justin Ehrman, and I am your host for today's South Dakota Horse Podcast. Today, for our first podcast, I wanted to take a brief moment to highlight what we are all about here at South Dakota Horse. First, I wanted to explain why I even started South Dakota Horse. Here's my story. Well, having been a fan of horses for my entire life, but never having the opportunity to own or regularly ride them, I found myself wanting to fill my life with horses more and more as recently as just a couple years ago. Having not been in the saddle since the summer of 2000, my interest faded for several years. Then along came this chestnut thoroughbred colt, California Chrome, whose story caught my attention during the Kentucky Derby broadcast in 2016. My life was never the same after that day. I followed Chrome's journey throughout his racing career and then enjoyed the photos of Chromies from around the world during their visits at TaylorMade Farm while California Chrome was on their stud roster. A few years ago, I got the itch to research the possibility of buying a horse of my own. My wife Lisa and I were recently empty nesters at that time, and I was at my middle ages. You know how some reach their middle ages and do something crazy like buying an expensive car or something? Well, I wanted a horse. Yep, I wanted a horse. And adding up the cost of boarding and care and my lack of time and experience to actually care for and ride the horse, I soon came to realize that it probably wasn't going to be an option for me. Lisa, my wife, grew up on the farm in Clark County, South Dakota, where her family raised beef cattle. Her father was a horseman beginning at an early age, but by the time I came into the picture, he was near the end of his cattle venture and was down to one horse. Of course, every visit to the farm gave me an opportunity to go find his old horse, Jake. He had been unridden for years, so the chance of a green rider like myself having a shot at him was pretty slim to none, mainly for my safety. I have all but given up on my dream of owning a horse, and none of our kids ever had the interest in horses or even my childhood Breyer horses that I had saved for them. But through my research, I have discovered four things. There are a lot of equine events, businesses, stables, organizations, and associations in this great state that I've never even heard about or know about still. I bet there are others like me out there who want to get their kids or themselves into riding but don't know how or where to begin. The third thing I learned is that there are so many opportunities for people to experience the gift of horses in South Dakota that ownership may not even be necessary for horses to touch more lives. And the fourth thing I learned is that the giving spirit of the South Dakota horse-loving men and women is truly amazing. It's been so fun connecting with some amazing people around the state the past couple of years. I have had complete strangers offering me the opportunity to ride their horse or to offer lessons. Because of my experiences in South Dakota equine Facebook groups and conversations with fellow horse lovers, I just had to find a way to connect everything together so everyone could have easy access to all things equine. Thus, SouthDakotaHorse.com was born. I have a lot to learn, but I hope that through this process I will grow not only myself, but the awareness and love of all things equine in South Dakota. And I have to say that the response to this venture has been quite remarkable. This is a non-funded startup, as many of you know, so a handful of amazing people are offering assistance as South Dakota Horse ambassadors. If you're interested in joining our roster of ambassadors, you can find more information about that on SouthDakotaHorse.com. In the coming months, you will see their work in the news and stories we share, the photography and videos we post, and the research that is so important in the creation of original news content. We also have some really good things planned for future podcasts, so please follow our podcast on your favorite podcast source. Could you help us grow our site, our social platforms, and podcast by sharing our content? If you have a news story you'd like us to cover, please email us at southdakotahorse.sd@gmail.com. And help us offer more quality content by sponsoring our podcast or advertising on southdakotahorse.com. Well, that's all for today. Be watching for another podcast coming in the next couple of weeks.
Remember to visit southdakotahorse.com for all things equine in the great state of South Dakota. Until next time, keep riding.